Good morning, everyone. Welcome back for day two. It's nice to see so many people woke up at 10 o'clock, and so many of you guys showed up for the run as well after last night's party. It was great to see about 17 people. We had a great run, actually. This one was the hardest we ever did for networking because we went up to the three crosses and to the castle. But these ultramarathoners are not kidding when they say they're running. So you have the photos in the group. Before we start, of course, we remind you about drinking and eating. So tonight at 7:30, 7:45, we invite you for the closing party. You can have dinner there. It's a really nice place in Vino. We have been going there this is I think the fourth time for hosting a closing session there. You will love it. We'll see you there. And of course, if you want to bring the family, bring them on. All right, so today we have a full day ahead. Our first session will focus on AML and other things. And we have Merit Lieb joining us as a moderator, and she will invite the speakers on the stage. I will see you later during the breaks, and of course, anything you need, just let me know.
And eating drinks or something. Hello, everyone. So let's start with the first, panel today. Risk AML data and compliance in Fintech. So I kindly ask here, panelists, Akvile Jurkaite, then Victoria Polvektova. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce correctly. Greta Ranonite, Rokas Muraška, and Marianne Rohtla. So we all know that the topic is very important and crucial and actual today. And I'd like to introduce everyone here. We have like 3 microphones. So introduce everyone your expertise or your connection with the topic. So let's start with Rokas.
I would like to say ladies first.
No, let's start men first.
Okay. Yes, so I'm Rokas. I'm from Paystrax. We are a payment card acquirer doing business all around Europe. We are principal member both of Visa and MasterCard. And myself, I'm Group Chief Security and Risk Officer, so responsible for both domains, risk management and security management. So AML is not exactly my knowledge or expertise, but I'll try to discuss a bit.
Oh, it's very related, no worries on that. Greta. Mm-hmm.
Good morning, my name is Greta Ranonyte. I'm the head of Fintech Ability Association. So we unite Fintech companies here in Lithuania, around 90 currently. I deal with all issues related to regulation and regulated activities.
Mm-hmm. Marianne?
Okay, so I'm Marianne. I'm a senior associate in the Council of Law Firm Teachers Baltic from Estonia. I am also the head of ESG and compliance working group there. And yeah, that's basically why I consider myself an expert there. I also have a background in working with the Financial Supervision Authority in Estonia and the different international evaluations. So I'm very excited to be in this panel. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Victoria. So today I'm presenting my own company. It's a RegTech solution. Actually, it's EgTech solution. But simultaneously, I have a very big experience in a compliance in card acquiring, and currently I'm serving as a Group Chief Compliance and Risk Officer for one of the biggest crypto processing companies.
Hello, I am Akvile Jurkaite. I am a senior associate at Sorainen. I'm working in a finance and insurance group, mainly focusing on compliance of fintechs or any financial institutions, frankly, with the huge focus of licensing on crypto as well. And AML compliance is one of the daily drivers in our law firm and in my list of tasks. So that's also the reason why I'm here.
Thank you, everyone. So I also kindly like to introduce myself. My career started as internal auditor at Danske Bank, Yoo-hoo, if you have heard. So basically, I do have a lot of court case not incidents, but court case experience as expert witness regarding AML, where I have to be explain what AML means, basically, because when you suddenly get to the court, the witness statement or something, then you basically forget everything. But today I am expert for auditors, where I built up the framework in order how to evaluate GASPs. Because in 2021, the new regulation or requirement came into force, and no one didn't know how to audit GASPs. So me, as a previous internal auditor, also board member of financial institutions, so basically I was the one who helped that. So basically now, let's go with the topic, because actually the topic is very important, also actual today. And I'd like to discuss the first as a question, like why you think that why our new regulations have shifted from directives to regulations, what it means in practice, Akvile.
Thank you, Merit. So, first of all, I think that the issue across the European Union, well, for some the issue, for some the advantage was that directives means local implementation, and each and every country can find their own ways of how to implement that directive in their own systems and legislative framework. Versus regulation is directly applicable, which means that eventually we should expect across the European Union a unified framework, a unified understanding how certain things in AML area should work, how the reporting should work, what are the thresholds for reporting of suspicious transactions, what should be the standards for due diligence of customers, and all the similar matters, which to a certain extent might help with different interpretations and these questions whether to go for Lithuania or for Germany and which country will be more suitable might disappear from the fintech mindset. On the other hand, directly applicable regulation also means way less flexibility to a certain extent, and being used to a little bit of difference around certain gold plating across the countries, it might be a little bit difficult for the fintechs to shift to this.
Mm-hmm. I agree, actually, because what I also have seen while seeing different entities as expert for auditors, I mean, like their interpretations have been different, and even regarding different countries, these entities, for example, FAT for recommendations, this has been interpreted totally different. And they're saying, like, I don't know, even the due diligence, this is also like, okay, the risk-based approach, this is also different, because like, okay, let's say, like, I don't know, like easiest way, I don't know, what is the standard, what is enhanced due diligence, etc. And that's actually, I don't know, big gap between different countries. So I totally agree with that. Greta, maybe you can comment, what is your perspective? What are the key advantages and challenges that direct EU level supervision, for example, under AML, because this is regarding the new regulations regarding AML, AML regulation. So what it means, because what it actually means, because that's the main question that everyone are asking at this point.
Well, I would say the practical answer, AMLA and AML are a little bit different. So let's start with AML-R. What Akvile said about moving to regulations. With regulations, I personally feel that we get much more regulatory technical standards issued by European supervisory authorities. There are 3 currently, EBA, ESMA, and EIOPA. Usually for us it's EBA, and now we will have AMLA as well. With regulatory technical standards, on one hand, you do get more clarity how to operate in different countries because it's the same. You just get the same standard and that's it. But for me, because we are an association, so our job is to represent the companies and the world of the market and how to make the regulation more compatible with everyday operations, it gets much more difficult to object some of the requirements that come from that level. With national authorities, it's much more easier. With the SS, it's much more difficult. Actually, currently with AML regulation, there is a new regulatory technical standards that are currently under consultation about CDD, so customer due diligence, and it's going to be much more difficult than it is right now to onboard clients, so a lot more documentation will be needed, and for us it's really difficult to object that because it's not on the national level, it's on the SS level. Now, AMLA, as an institution, I think it was, of course, needed as an institution because there was no institution directly responsible for IML. It was EBA, but they had different functions, and part of their functions was IML. With having AMLA and especially their direct supervision of some of the companies across the EU, it might help them to better understand what's going on and to issue the regulatory technical standards that are more compatible with market practices. However, what we've been seeing before joining the association, we worked at the Ministry of Finance. So we did work with the council working groups and represented Lithuania in some of the questions. We've been seeing a lot of powers being shifted to ESAs from national authorities. And what happens is that then the institutions at the EU level issue the regulation and the rules, but the national authorities are left with the responsibility for companies to, be compliant with those regulations. And it's an issue because you feel that you are being regulated by a national authority. You go to your national authority saying that, hey, this is it's an issue, and then the authority says, I'm sorry, I have no power for that. So it's an interesting thing that is happening, especially in the financial sector and in the EU.
Actually, that is an interesting point that what you just brought out. But now I'm just thinking, as we are here, like gambling, iGaming conference. But for example, in Estonia, we don't have separate national supervision for gambling. We have customs and tax board. So that is like, I'm just thinking loudly, like, wow, what we do in this matter.
Long-standing actual issues here because it is the Tax and Customs Board who is historically supervising gambling and strictly gambling sector. Yeah. So gaming sector, every time they just say that we don't do that either. Mm-hmm. And there are actually 3 people working in this department. I know them all because due to my work. And I see that this is not enough manpower because gambling, it's when the economy is dropping, then it means that people are seeking some other activities. And typically it is either alcohol or gambling, basically. So this is something. It's just like a societal phenomenon, but it means that when people are getting more vulnerable, then the supervision should be a little bit stronger. And this is, I think, what was the historical essence of regulating financial sector after the financial crisis and strengthening the AML rules. And now I think what the problem and why has been AMLA so criticized is that due to this, as you said, that due to this not having enough power by actually having a lot of technical standards that you should be implementing, I'm afraid that for gambling sector, it's probably not enough. So I think it can fail, at least in Estonia.
I agree, but now I'm just thinking, okay, now that was the AMLA and regarding this gaming supervision or whatever, but now I'm thinking, but now how, after AMLA, different entities, FIU, FSA, and gambling, okay, tax customs and tax board, how they are like communicating, what are their relationships, how they're communicating. So maybe, I don't know, Greta, you can comment additionally, what is your opinion?
Sure, I just wanted to come back a little bit to what you just said. While some of the regulations are here in order to protect the consumer, such as lending, let's say, and consumer protection in lending, I don't think AML is here to protect the consumers. It's about protecting the financial stability of the country and more about protecting the country and the regulators and the supervisors and everything to avoid some of the scandals, but more broadly, just not to become part of grey list and then.
Sorry, my theory actually was also tested in court during this Danske case, where I argued before the court that actually some of the provisions of AML Act should be protective also of the consumers too, and the court agreed. At some point, but we lost.
But from the Lithuanian court perspective, it's more to Greta's point. It's not the consumer itself; it's the public interest that that the system should protect and the AML regulation should protect. So very broad.
Because from a consumer perspective, AML is a burden. Right, you have to submit a lot of documents, especially if you are a business owner. You have to submit a lot of documents to just get an account for payments. So it's a little bit different. But Merit, coming back to your question, it was about the
like what are the different regulations? Let's imagine now we have like AMLA, but now how other institutions, what are like how their how to say communication, how to communicate with them, FIU, FSA, gambling authorities, like.
Yeah, I think AMLA is here because of partly because of that. Some of the AML issues are not national; they are cross-border, and then the national authorities just don't have enough power to solve the questions, and they have to go to institutions. So that's why they go to AMLA. With AMLA, I do think that both our FIU, we don't have it as it is, but our FIU and the Bank of Lithuania, which is the supervisory authority for financial sector, they're both in part participating in the AMLA's discussions, right? The cooperation is interesting between them. On one hand, they do cooperate in a lot of aspects in, let's say, solving the crimes, but in a lot of aspects, they do not share the data between themselves. So it's very interesting for me personally. I don't know when they share the data and when they don't, because sometimes it feels that FIU needs the data, but then the Bank of Lithuania asks us the data. We say, okay, why can't you just give the data to the FIU? You already have it. No, we cannot. It's under secret or whatever. Confidential information, but in some cases they're very good in sharing the data and information, and sometimes they do. Let's say in Lithuania, the national AML regime or AML law goes under the Ministry of Interior, and then the supervisory authority is our FIU. So naturally, we go to the FIU to talk about the law and what's wrong in it. But then they say, oh, sorry, even though the law is under our powers, the Bank of Lithuania is the one who is responsible for implementing AML part, which should be subject to financial sector. But when it comes to gambling, it's another institution. When it comes to crypto, now suddenly both of them are responsible. So practically, for financial sector, it's already clear. For gambling, more or less. It's going to be very interesting how it's going to be for crypto. So, for example, who will do the inspections? Most likely Bank of Lithuania, but with the help of FIU, or will likely not. So it's gonna be gonna be interesting. But coming back, to the question, there are questions in the national level. So I'm not sure how it's gonna happen in the EU with AMLA, whether it will help or will it become just another step to make a decision.
I would like to maybe just jump in on one point that. In order for this cooperation to be seamless, like in the national level, there have to be in place like procedural rules, like law that allows you to process some sort of data, make inquiries, do this type of cooperation. And what I see already that we are lacking these type of procedures, at least in Estonia. It's not very transparent. So what our FSA, for example, does, while they do have like some sort of data, or they at least know where this data lies, like in another authority, they are still asking the supervisory objects to provide them the same data, which just because they do not have the procedural rules to ask this data from another authority. And this is very burdensome and might also be illegal if we're speaking about, for example, possible crime investigation, because you are not obligated to incriminate yourself, even like if you haven't done nothing wrong, but if you are maybe being treated as a suspect. So this raises, again, a lot of litigation, a lot of dispute, but this is very, it's due to these types of lacking of procedures, it becomes very cumbersome, very expensive for the companies actually.
They are relying on that because if some information is requested, then as an obligated entity or like responsible person, you have to give them. If you don't give them, then you already breached the AML regulation basically. So easy is that basically. So you have to give them, like from the customer point of view. But okay, regarding also, now I'd like to shift from the regulation point of view or regulators point of view, rather the risk owners or like outsourcing activities. So maybe Aquila, you can comment what are the main outsourcing related changes under new AML package?
That's a very good question. I think the key that's lying with the now the regulation is that compliance should and outsourcing as such as well should be in the entity itself, meaning there are rather significant limitations as to what services can be outsourced, starting from outsourcing the decisions of the risk score attributed to the customer, make approving policies or procedures, and also, reporting to the FIU. But, the list is rather longer than just few of these. I think the main idea is that it will no longer be possible to think that you outsourced the function and you're out of it, and your third-party providers that are responsible for the AML bits and pieces will be ensuring that you are 100% compliant. So I think this approach, at least for Lithuania, in my opinion, it was very obvious and implementable even before. So for me, reading this regulation and trying to understand, the new burdens in terms of outsourcing, it wasn't surprising at all, and it does seem like our FIU already was, and also our AML law was way far beyond what was required before. And it's already visible also from the Bank of Lithuania, from the FIU, in terms of the requirements for the AML prevention, and we also see that in terms of gas licensing, for instance, and the amount of people there, the Bank of Lithuania is already asking, is like a visionary towards what's coming, but also in terms of their mindset already that, one or few people will not manage the risks that are coming from the AML, will not manage all the reporting, will not manage sufficient due diligence, will not manage decision making, will not assess properly the risks, and you cannot over-rely on over outsourcing the significant decisions, and simply hiring MLRO in your company, regardless of the size, will not be enough to be compliant.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd like to hear also from CTO point of view, like in practical, because securities or like, I don't know, AI or systems, how the outsourcing is changing in your point of view.
Outsourcing, it's changing in a good way, because then the companies can use the expertise and knowledge of a third-party service provider. But most important, coming to that AML Act and regulation, and so when I tried to read it, I did it really just from a helicopter view. But I didn't notice any huge changes comparing to what we are like doing in a security field, like because the decision power it's under the company. The CEO is always ultimately responsible for all the decisions. So it means that you cannot give the authority to the service provider to make a decision for you. And in the security and in the risk field, like all those regulations, GDPR previously. So it was stated already in that companies are the data controllers. So they are owning the data, the information. So it means that decision power too. So for me, it's not a huge change.
But Victoria, I don't know, do you have in your company, do you outsource some entities? Like how is that AML package changing your company?
Our situation is even more difficult because, as I have already mentioned, we're a group of the companies, which means that we have like a central point, central CTO, central everything. And when it comes to applying to license and building like a proper structure, like regulators wishes to see it, it comes to the situation that we have to employ another CTO, another CISO, another outsourcing officer, and preferably this person to be local.
So, oh my God, that is so good. That is so correct.
Yeah, so you know what I mean, and this is quite painful because as we discussed internally in my team, all the licensees that are trying to get right now license in Lithuania will not be able to employ Lithuanians because there is so many people who are experts in the field.
Actually, that is correct because also in Estonia we also have the similar situation. I was also speaking yesterday with, I don't remember with who, but but it was also the main point is that from employee level the expertise has become like from international employees like from India, etc. And they have decreased the salary expectations so low, but they don't understand the local regulation. And it means that from licenses, actually the quality goes down. So what I would also like to point out is that when we have outsourcing and what I have seen regarding different audits, no one hasn't done a pre-evaluation. And this is my key word here actually. That actually like compliance, product teams, etc., they have to be involved from the day one. And this is my key note here, like this is super crucial. But yeah, maybe you have something to comment.
I just have this, being a lawyer who should be advocating that about the compliance culture and everything. Compliance is needed for businesses and there's always business involved in this, and there's always proportionality in this. Hiring new people in each and every country for each and every position is usually a cost for the business as well. And there's no ultimate universal formula on how many people should be in which company because there's always proportionality involved. And especially, having the same requirements for a relatively small business coming for license already from day one versus a group of companies scaling their business across not even Europe but the world itself. Well, these are different types of companies and there are also difficult and different risks across. I'm not saying that startups or smaller companies have less of risks because the inherent risks are the same usually, but there's no universal way to say, look, there's always these type of people that are mandatory. The operations are different, the services are different, the client types are different, the jurisdictions are different. So there should be also a little bit more flexibility rather than just pinpointing that, local people here, and local people there as well.
Yeah. That is totally correct. I do agree regarding different businesses. They are different. The model is different, etc. But yeah, anyway, this is something everyone are like, how to say, turning their head. But now I'd like to, yeah, maybe Greta, you have something to comment, please.
Yeah, it's also, well, I do understand the mindset behind the business or somebody who is just applying for a license, that it's a hurdle. Lithuania already has experience with companies like that who did not want to hire a lot of people in the country. Now, just because you have let's say five people working in the company, it does not make you a normally operating company. You can still be a shell company. What's the important part is that the decisions should be made where the license is. Now, what's been happening, a lot of companies are being called, let's say they have a license in Lithuania and then they have operations somewhere else, ICT somewhere else, the management sits also in UK. And then they say that the licensed entity is like a department. It's a department in the company, they do something, we're not really sure what, but they do something, and then we are making the decisions. That's not gonna work. This is actually a shell company, because they are not making any kind of decisions. Just because you have a country manager, it doesn't mean that he has the decision power. So that's just plainly think about, oh, I need to hire more people. That's the wrong approach. You need to understand that you need to make decisions where your license lies. That's why, if you're saying that, oh, we are trying to get Amica license in 5 different countries, and which of those will be the one that you will have the board and everybody?
It's phishing, actually. Also, regulators, they say it's phishing, licensing, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Just to add to Kvila's comment that from our perspective, from company's perspective. So in the company we have like 105 employees approximately, and almost 50% of them, one way or another, were working with compliance, like from all type of because onboarding, transaction monitoring, etc., risk, etc. So it's like 50% of companies working just with the compliance of that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for the overview. But now, actually, also one of the crucial topic regarding this new AML package is UBO definition. So, Marianne, can you please explain what has been changed regarding UBO definition, ultimate beneficial ownership?
I think that most of you probably know already. But maybe it's a good start to introduce again the historical issue or the issue that we had until right now was that the threshold for identifying UBO was quite high. Actually, it was 25%, and so that means that and in practice that means that it was quite simple to just to fly under the radar. And then all the UBO liability, let's say, not liability, but just the formality of UBO, it fell down on the senior management. But senior management, they come and go, so it was kind of like a fluctuating problem. And so the point now here is to provide opportunities to lower the threshold in order to find those ultimate beneficiaries. So this is, I think, the most.
But I remember when I was working in this topic, so even lover is UBO, can be actually. No, there is it because it's I don't know, the Estonian word is lähikondlane. I don't know how is it in English.
Well,
like close. Yeah, there's close. So even lover can be. Basically. Or actually also now I remember I read from AML package that the voting rights also it can be possibly.
Yeah, well because it all falls down on the direct and indirect control. Of course, the direct and indirect control it's already implemented right now too. Like at least in the regulation. But I would say that in practice, again, when I have been advising a lot of gambling organizers, for example, for receiving their licenses, and I see that there are 3 people working in the tax authority, they are treating this UBO definition very loosely. So they're just like pinpointing somebody, and they're just saying that provide me documents about this person. And then I am while I am a compliance attorney, I am very feisty, you know, I'm actually a litigator inside of me. So I always start fighting them back. Why this person? Maybe somebody else, you know. And when it becomes, for example, clear that there is somebody that is a group company whose mother is actually a publicly listed company, then why are we, you know, why are you making these types of decisions? Why are you burdening us with those questions? So I really hope that the redefining of UBOs now makes this a little bit more clearer. This is actually a very welcomed approach, but of course there are issues with every aspect. But this is welcomed, I think.
Yeah, but also there is another issue, UBO registries. So is there any like privacy breaches possibly, or what do you think, Victoria?
Yes, actually, I have a very interesting story to share with the audience. So I live in Cyprus for already 4 years. So all my, regulations and all the discussions in Cyprus were going about this UBO register. We collected a lot of documents. We supplied these documents or information to the register. Everybody was expecting that one day the register will be open. And then European Justice came and said, guys, it's privacy violation. So Cyprus was lucky enough not to open this register, just never. Yes, and here we come to the point that due to inconsistencies between different regulations, that AML law says everything should be open, everybody should know to avoid money laundering and so on. But there is one more regulation, like a privacy regulation. And me personally and my husband, who were not like a subject of interest, we were in a great fun to search for in Latvian register for UBOs, because, for example, Latvian register was just completely open. It was it was just completely open. You had just to log in with your bank ID, and everything was fine. So, to some extent, it's like a very tricky thing. It's very convenient. But a lot of people really misuse this information in the registers. Cyprus was prudent enough. Okay, Cyprus wasn't prudent enough. Cyprus is slow enough in everything, so that they just didn't open it and took the chance to open it in a more like a prudent way, like everything happens right now, where AML coming and it explicitly says what to open, to whom to open, how to open, and who can use this information. In my opinion, this is quite good.
Yeah. We also have actually in Estonia, we also have the same situation that UBO registry, it's how to say, breach the privacy rights, etc. But what is your experience?
Sure, I just wanted to say that when Cyprus was prudent, then Estonians and Estonia as when to describe Estonia as a regulatory landscape for making business, it's from the regulation perspective, from EU regulation perspective, it's very risky, because Estonia is very keen to transpose everything that is coming, and very fast. So when this UBO regulation came into force, nobody thought about like privacy rights. They just opened the registry and started enforcing this obligation to put down UBOs under the threats of fining. So it was done very fast, and now I think it's still they have like closed down like some sort of features, but actually this is still open. Everything you can even you click on a person, you see they're all attachments with everything else. The computer it throws you like different schemes. So it's still out of the open there,
Yeah. We also even have like one page, actually it's even open, that you even see connection with different other companies. So, and also even actually there is also their person names, like different persons. So that is also something, wow. But now I'd like to also shift to Rokas. Regarding cybersecurity. So, because this is also very, very crucial part. So, what do you see currently regarding shifting to AML package? What are the main risks, currently, and what do you may see in future regarding cybersecurity? Especially regulated environment.
Yeah, in regulated environment, in fintechs and gambling, gaming sector. So I would say that it a bit differs because in the fintech, like or at least we see a lot of when the market sees a lot of phishing campaigns still happening, and it's quite I mean popular from the way that cyber criminals can get trick the employees of the company and get financial information, confidential information, etc. And even when I heard about those open registries, so it's like for cyber criminal, it's like wow, it's so good to get that information and to get to access to it, because then they already know who is the UBO, and then the cyber criminals can use that information just like but trying to trick that person to get more information to at the end to get to the funds of our cash. Where from the gambling or gaming sector, I would say that biggest risk or the biggest threat is DDoS attacks. So it's those attacks where the cyber criminals tries to stop your services, like by using some bots, so-called bots, which are already like with viruses, and they're just trying to access your environment with like fake requests, and it means that at that time your server is just like going down without without possibility to answer to legitimate requests of like some gamers and so on. What else? I would say with AI coming, or like quantum computing coming, so now is the already soon it will be a situation, and well-known and quite strong encryption standards will be broken, and like sometimes ago it was said that to decrypt the information which is encrypted with those standards, it would take for like computing power to like ages, and soon it will be that just minutes to decrypt that information. So it means that the companies should be thinking already how to use the AI solution or quantum solutions to kind of prevent the cyber criminals using quantum computing powers.
Yeah, bots, yeah, actually, but bot advantage is also, or like the AI advantage is also from AML point of view, that actually if you use the chatbot or whatever, then actually from the response, when person writes, I don't know how to say, you enter some indicators, and it will say that, okay, this person might be related with, I don't know, child abuse or something like that. So this is also some of the advantage what, in my opinion, I have used. But now the famous question regarding DORA. How your company is preparing for that, or actually, what are the steps you think is crucial here to implement?
Yeah, so short answer, it's not that we are preparing for it. We were prepared already from the early beginning.
It's from before.
So, but what companies should do? So initially they must do just like a gap analysis to understand what do they have, what assets, what environments they're using, and then of course you need to have a roadmap plan on implement some security measures, etc. What came with DORA important was like third-party risk management, or emphasize on correct and good third-party risk management, including outsourcing of services to it. So for us as a company, as we started the business like 6 years ago, and at that time we decided to use a lot of third-party service providers. So some of our services we are outsourcing. And so it means that we used a lot of third parties, and but we had and we still have a quite good understanding of it, and a mindset that we are the owner. As I mentioned previously, we are the owner of data and information. So it means that we should know how the service provider is doing some specific task, why he is doing it like that, and so on. So for us, the DORA was like the biggest issue we had with DORA. So it was the reporting of register of information to Bank Lithuania. And I don't want to complain in here, but it's as well like coming back to the different use of the authorities. So I know that some other authorities in the Europe, so it was enough for them just to send an if I correctly know, even in Estonia, just like simple Excel spreadsheet, with like, this is a company and I have those service providers. That's it. Where in here, it was really a burden for us to get that information with all those, codes and so on. Oh my God.
Oh wow, there were codes as well. I want to see that table.
You don't.
Okay, wow. But Victoria, maybe you also have some experience regarding that.
Yes, sure. We do have experience. But actually, my experience is pretty the same like Rokas has, because as being a company certified with ISO standards, which pretty covers a lot of things with DORA, we were prepared. But when it comes to organizational things, like due diligence of the partners and all these things, so this is a point where we completely were not prepared. So what we're doing right now, we are making all the asset tables, all the vendor mappings, grabbing all the agreements, and trying to understand if all the agreements consist all the information that is required. So this is the weakest point of maybe companies that already for some time operate on the market, were quite well established and cared about security at all, just organizational things, not technology itself.
Yeah, I totally agree. Akvile, have you seen some, I don't know, some from as a lawyer or like the Sorainen partner, or so have you seen in practice how your customers or the market, how they have been prepared with DORA?
I think the rather majority, DORA did not seem like something revolutionary, frankly, and this was again simply because of the already pre-existing requirements by the Bank of Lithuania, and it was a little bit of a challenge to do these assessments internally, although Fintech Hub as well has been working on this very actively, and we were constantly referring to consult with Fintech Hub. I think Greta can expand a little bit more on this work, but the majority of the things we've seen was struggling to actually report things to the Bank of Lithuania, because there's this specific system they have. These were resolved, but then also make the necessary amendments with your vendors. We've seen that some would use the opportunity to charge enormously ridiculous amount of simply adding DORA amendment to the agreement to be compliant, 15K yearly, for instance, which is a little bit of a interesting approach to charge for compliance that's universal across the whole European Union. So I think this is one of the things we saw.
Yeah, Greta, maybe you also have something to add.
So fintech is very broad, right? So there are a lot of different kind of companies under the word fintech. With DORA, what happened? So on the higher level, for companies like electronic money or payment institutions such as Paystracks, for banks, for some other entities, it should not have been a lot of. There were not a lot of new information, because there were three guidelines from EBA that covered most parts of the DORA, and what DORA did, they just put everything under one roof and harmonized the requirements, but then they also expanded the scope of entities falling under DORA, which means, but for electronic money institutions, those three guidelines were already applicable, while for CASPs under, applying for MiCA, they were not under the SS regulation, and that's why everything was new. So it really depends on what entity you're coming from, and that's how DORA is new or not new to you. But what we saw, because of course we did self-assessments, we made questionnaires, we compared, the existing frameworks with DORA, and what we saw that a lot of entities were not compliant with the existing regulations.
Yeah.
So when you are not compliant with existing, then of course DORA brings a little bit more. So that was one issue. The second issue now on the technical level, well, DORA was the same, but also a little bit different. Let's say you had to report major incidents, and then you had criteria, but with DORA, the criteria was a little bit different. With the register, with outsourcing and third parties. At first, it was like, okay, it's when we were reading the requirements on the managing the risks of third parties, it seems like outsourcing, like it's the same as managing outsourcing risks. And then we're saying, okay, so this is outsourcing, and then the institution said, well, yes, but no. Third parties is broader than outsourcing. And when we asked, so what's broader? It depends on the company and what they say that are, the important or essential functions. So same, but different. And now what happens, a lot of companies are outsourcing ICT to third parties. So let's say if Rokas is in-house with the team responsible for DORA, still a lot of companies are outsourcing DORA compliance to the third parties or to, let's say, other departments in their groups. And then the companies who are here in Lithuania, they say, oh, we are compliant. It's fine. They will prepare the policies, we're fine. But usually those third entities, they are very good at the technical side, not necessarily on the policy side. And I do remember the technical guys, they were saying, oh, DORA is just 30 documents. So it depends on the approach and what kind of entity you're in. Essentially, it's not that difficult, right? On the philosophical, theoretical level, it's not that difficult. But when it comes to the small details of implementation.
Just to add a little bit here, a good point from the type of entity standpoint. In my opinion, it was way easier for CASPs to go with DORA because they did not have anything. So what happened there is majorly to build everything from scratch. And from my experience, it's usually a little bit easier to build from scratch instead of adopting, because when you already have all the IT systems in place, all the security measures, and some ambiguity what it actually means, what is really the change here, that's difficult to implement. On the policy level as well, if you approach DORA as only another set of policies in your company, you failed already, because this is way more than just building the policies only. It's actually that your systems would work in line with this, and it seems like, at least from the Bank of Lithuania side, they will have some sort of a transition period doing the friendly visits for now as well. So we will see how friendly they will be, but indeed it will be interesting.
But also, the systems did work. Did DORA help actual cybersecurity?
Maybe it's hard for me to answer because from my company perspective, so it wasn't a huge impact. DORA, it was just another regulation. And but I totally agree with what you said. And it depends on how to say the maturity of the company. Exactly, just maturity. If it's just like two people company, so they just like doesn't matter DORA, AML, whatever. Say no more, just another regulation. But if this is a company where they are like taking care of their business, and they are not doing it in a good and proper way, so they just understand that okay, you need to comply at that. But then my question, which I have that already in mind, so then all the regulations, is that opportunity or burden? And of course it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I do agree. But also, as you mentioned, Rokas, also what I also have done myself, it's crucial to do or important to do the gap analysis, what you mentioned, but I name it as risk assessment or like evaluation. Yeah, it's the same. But also what is important here is to evaluate all possible risks, then whether these are compliant with regulation, internal procedures, etc., what is also requirements from the regulation. Also, who is the risk owner? What is the evaluation, like interval? How often you will re-evaluate? And do you mitigate or avoid? So also the risk appetite point of view. So this is my view how I have done it. So I see that your experiences that it's not actually so hard. But now, just as how to say to end our panel, what are, in your opinion, with all like who wants to answer, what are the main risks? Like what has been underestimated so far, and what do you think? What should be like where to focus from risk point of view regarding this new AML packages, etc. So yeah, Greta, please.
Fraud for fintechs. Instantly. While in the banking sector, fraud is the number one risk currently. In fintechs, when we ask our companies, do you consider fraud as a big risk? No, we don't. We work with B2B, so there is no fraud.
Yeah.
That's an issue, something that should not be underlooked by fintechs as well.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
I had two risks in mind. So one, like quantum computing and AI itself, but then it's like on another side. So AI itself is a risk, or not using AI in your environment is a risk as well, because you can then lose a business, and still over-regulation is as well a risk for the companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I'm Marianne.
Because the fraud example is very, very serious. And I would say that one thing that has been like a long time, already Ekpa said like 2 years ago, that they work on, well basically what they said, like within the flowers, that they work on the assumption that fintech sector is always falling behind with respect to the compliance. So no matter what they do, they are always non-compliant. That this is the assumption, and that I know, like coming from FSA, I know that that the assumption was there as well. And now with AMLA, I would say that the assumption will still be going. And so I would say that and now with the new regulations, new framework, I think my key advice would still be here, that always assume that you're always suspected of non-compliance, and in case of inspection, in case of preparedness, start from the very basic steps and start working towards enhancing them, and be prepared that you will be already treated from the ground level.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, Victoria?
From my perspective, the human factor is the main risk, because even though we have all this sophisticated technology like artificial intelligence and everything else, if human just forgot to push the button to switch on these technologies, that everything unfortunately doesn't work. If people use the technology, use chatbots and push all the policies just because of its convenient way to review them without understanding how actually this information is used. Later, it's a human factor, it's a human laziness, not technology itself. Technology is great, but if we forget about the human factor in combination with this technology, we are running a risk.
And I think my point of view will wrap up a little bit all of this, but to add here what I've seen over the last few years, and also particularly working with CASPs, but also with the EMIs and PIs still, is business and the owners do not fully understand the regulation and the type of what is expected from the competent authorities and the acts themselves. If to compare 10, 15 years ago when banks were getting the licenses and they were discussing with lawyers how to structure the product, how to approach this or that part, you could see that chief technology officer or risk officer would actually bring the point from the regulation and say, look, but this is not, is this really the way it should work? Now we see that business is focused on business and they consider that compliance, legal firms, lawyers will take care of the rest. And frankly, I do not believe that this is a viable solution. So just to get an understanding not only how the business works, but also what the legal part of it means, because compliance drives the organization, especially in these very much changing times and more regulations coming into the field.
Yeah, I do agree. But what I would like to point out is also, as also mentioned earlier, don't rely fully. There has to be human factor additionally. And what I like to point out, training. Do not underestimate training and different level of defenses. This is super crucial. Understand, because people or employees, they don't understand why we are doing this and or like what we are doing. So this is super crucial. So anyway, I thank you everyone, panelists. That is all from our side, and yeah, just thank you.